Hello. I'm just going to get straight into it. If you've clicked on the video, you've probably seen the title, and I'm planning on calling it Songwriting Process. So it's been a little while since I made a video, so excuse me while I get used to the process again, but I thought it would be a nice thing to do to start up I don't want to call it a series, but just to make a few videos about music as it is for me, and songwriting and covering music and things like that. I'm all worried about my lipstick. It looks a little bit uneven, but look, we're all here together. This is just video one of the journey. And now that I've spent nearly a minute talking about nothing, if you haven't seen the video of the song that I'm going to talk about, I do recommend, or suggest at least, that you go and watch that video first. I'll put a link down below. It's called Spirit. And for those of you that have already seen it, thank you very much for watching it. I really appreciate it. And I really appreciate that you're here because you're interested enough in how I wrote it. So I studied songwriting at uni, which doesn't make me any more qualified than any other person who's written a song or who listens to music or is interested in songwriting themselves. It's just that, having gone through the academic environment of learning about songwriting, I'm used to putting it into a particular window or looking at it in a particular analytic way. So I'm just trying to preface, if the way that I talk about songwriting is a bit off-putting, or if you don't find this interesting, just let me know and I'll do my best to break it down in a different way. So this is just the first video, and hopefully there'll be more and we can kind of back and forth so that it works for everyone and I stop using my hands so much. Yeah, so I got out my little notebook from when I wrote the song. I don't know if this is interesting, but here's all of the ideas and scribbling that went on behind the scenes before I finalised the lyrics. This is kind of a good song actually to begin with, because it was a few different ways to how I'm used to writing songs, and I kind of put it all into one. So I had the first idea, the bit that goes like this. It's been a couple of weeks, it's been a couple of years since I've been home on this island for more than 2 weeks. I've forgotten the tension of expectations set too high for each other to reach. I'm grateful for the planes and the trains and the travel that got me here in one piece. But this is not December as it used to be. So I had the melody idea, and kind of some of the lyrics sort of came to me. I was just sitting down and noodling with the guitar while I was at home in Tasmania visiting my mum. And that was just how I was feeling. It's been a couple years since I've been home in Tasmania for more than a few weeks. And I felt like that gave me a particular window, especially it being Christmas time, it gave me a particular window into that season. And I've been thinking a lot of the songs that I write and a lot of the lyrics that I write are quite slow and kind of quite windy. I'm not sure, that's really not a technical term, having said I studied songwriting. Anyway, I wanted to write something that was a little bit more conversational. A couple of years since I've been home on the island, and I wanted something with a melody and a lyric line that just kind of ran like a conversation did. And I think I still want to write a song where the whole song and all of the lyrics are like a conversation and it's very wordy, but I haven't really gotten to that point yet. And I'm still writing songs that are, fewer words and longer notes. But so I wrote that bit as a little bit of an intro. I feel like I'm rambling. And then I had the idea for the chorus section. Can we please remember? And then I wasn't sure, and I had kind of da 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 da, this time of year, can we try to forget? So that melody and those lyrics kind of came to mind all together. But as I said, I hadn't finalised all of the words. So I just wrote down what I had so far, and just left kind of gaps for where I'd want to fill it in with. And then tried to figure out the chords that would fit around that. So when I've kind of jumped around the place here, I thought it would be better to just talk rather than plan the video and then talk to a script. maybe that wasn't the best idea. So the melody and the rhythm and the lyrics for the intro section, let's call it, couple of years since I've been home, that section, that all kind of came together, but I wasn't sure like what the note was or what key it would be, or what the chords were around it. So I kind of wrote down what I had already, because it was kind of noodling around in my mind, which is generally how songs begin for me. It's always a melody and maybe a lyric or two, and then I have to figure out where that melody sits on the guitar and what chords would fit around it. So that's what I did. I wrote down the lyrics I had and then noodled around until I realised it was pretty much in C. And then I kind of thought about the key signature of C, thinking about like 2-5-1 progressions and different progressions that work within any key, basically. And then, yeah, so settled on A minor and G and F, which is pretty much what I write all my songs in, which is why I'm shaking my head. But there's no problem with that. Lots of songs are written just with 4 chords. So, I mean, if you're thinking about writing a song, don't worry about if it sounds basic, because there's a lot of songs that are basic chords and they still sound amazing. I think the most important thing in a song is having a good melody, and having some interesting lyrics and some interesting images. So with that in mind, I just wrote kind of a little bit of prose, I suppose, about the things that I missed of Christmas, because my grandparents, my grandmother has sadly passed away now, but my grandfather's in the nursing home, and his house that he grew up in, and that my mum grew up in and that he built for his family is still up on the hill, and I just have really vivid memories of the Christmas time in that house and what that meant. So I just did some prose and wrote down the images, because sense-based lyrics are, strangely enough, really relatable for listeners. So even though I'm talking about things that are really specific and relatable, Christmas pudding hanging from the ceiling, fresh apricot jam, my grandpa had an apricot tree in his backyard and he'd always make apricot jam. And my grandmother, I remember, she had like a tremor, and so when she'd be holding teacups on saucers, it just rattled a lot. So teacups on saucers, serving hot tea to daughters, it kind of just started to flow once I sort of figured out the space that I wanted the song to be in and what I sort of wanted it to be about. The words then kind of naturally, my brain, because I've been writing songs for a while and I think about this quite a bit, the way that I write my prose about the sensory images for my lyrics kind of end up coming out in a rhyme scheme naturally. So I can try to break that down and talk about different rhyme schemes and different ways to analyse the rhyme scheme of your favourite songs if you want me to do that. If that would be helpful. I'd actually love to be able to talk about the different aspects of songwriting. But this is already 8 minutes, so I'm going to stop there. I hope that that's helpful. I hope that that gives you some inspiration or some background about the song. I'm just going to think about if I have explained it properly. Yeah, the melody and the lyrics all sort of come together, and then I figure out the key and the chords that suit those melody lines. Then I think about the key in a bigger sense of where could I take that song to. So if I've written a verse, where can I take it to with the chorus? Or if I've written a chorus, where can that come from? And what's the context that I can set it up from at the beginning of the song so that the chorus makes sense and feels like a new place. And then I just love singing. Singing is my main instrument, so once I have the chords, I just kind of noodle around and sing different things. So whether or not singing is your most comfortable instrument, or guitar is your most comfortable instrument, or harp, or piano, whatever it is that you feel comfortable making melodies on, because music is a language and a melody is kind of like a sentence in a way. So whichever pen, so to speak, whichever pen or instrument of language feels most comfortable to you, just have a noodle around and play with different melodies, and then figure out the keys and the chords that can go underneath it. So that's a pretty broad, pretty vague description of the songwriting process. I can break it down and start at the beginning if you'd be interested in that as well. But I'm going to call that day because that's 10 minutes. So I've been working on another song this morning. It's about white privileged guilt, because tomorrow is Invasion Day, or as some people like to call it Australia Day. So I've just started writing a song about that this morning. So I'm really in the space of thinking about songwriting. But yeah, that song should be up within the next week, and I can make another video about that songwriting process. So I'd really appreciate a bit of feedback, because then I can use it in the next video that I make. If you're interested, you can follow my stories and my rambles on Instagram. I'm pretty much always on Instagram, so that's at Camilla Jones Music. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this 10.5 minute video.